Welcome to the video today. We're going to look at RapidComposer, something new to me. It's been around apparently for 12 years and they're having a big anniversary sale. And somebody from our new Discord server pointed it out and I'm thankful for that. And the developer was kind enough to give me a free copy to evaluate and to look at and to share my thoughts on. So that's what this first video is. My thoughts and over 2.5 days, my experience with working on or with this program. So let's just take a look at what we have. So if I had to compare this program to something else, it would be kind of like a hybrid of Scalar and InstaComposer, but InstaComposer after being worked on and developed for 12 more years. So if you like that type of thing, this program is right up your alley and something you should definitely look at. I recommend getting the free demo because it's one of those programs that's unique. It has its own ecosystem. You're going to have to learn some things. In my opinion, it's well worth learning that. I've appreciated more and more every day that I use it. And so I'm happy to showcase it here, at least to give an initial look. And I hope to have many more videos on it. So let's take a look at RapidComposer. Let's make it larger. And we don't need this tab there, so we can drag it even bigger. And so that's a good thing. You can, because there's a lot of information in here, so you can drag it out to fill up your workspace. You can drag the timeline out to how long you like. I don't know if there's a limit there. I don't think so. And you can take this part in the green line here, and you can duplicate that and make another part, rename that, so you could easily have this part as your intro, and then you can have verse and choruses and endings, and you can all title that, and you can copy one to another and make variations of that easily and musically. And so it has a really great system for both patterns or phrases, parts, and full composition. So at the bottom here, we can double tap the horizontal, and you can also double tap the vertical, which would make this a lot bigger. So there are some nice ways that the interface helps you to work. And because this system, I believe, is, it's very innovative and it has its own ecosystem, it's just different, and that's good, but it is different. You're going to have to spend some time or watch videos to see how to run this program. Because, if you want a program that runs like everything else, it will be easy to run, but you'll be stuck with a program that is like everything else. So pros and cons. But I'm finding the more I use this program, the more I appreciate the thought that's gone into it. Now, this is one track here, and itself can be zoomed in or up like that, so you can have it, very compressed or zoomed right into. Now, every channel can be hooked up to how you want it, whatever sound you want to play on it, right? The track here, so it has a full, what you would call a chord track in Cubase or Studio One. And it's really, I think, even more advanced in some ways. But here, since I like to work with the names of the chords, but you have your options, and there's so many options to tailor things the way you want. But I can right-click here, and I can say, instead of universal notation, I would like the note names, right? So now that's changed, and and then I would save, the project. So once I configure this the way I like, I'm just going to save the project so it's always in this state I like. Now I can add a track, and you simply add a track, and I can hook it up to, if we look at RapidComposer up here, we can see that for the inputs, it allows us many MIDI ins and outs, but 8 different VSTs that I can hook up and not have to worry about all the different MIDI channels. So that's a good number, so I can hook up my easy bass, I can hook up my easy drummer, I can hook up VSL strings if I want, the orchestra, whatever. It allows me to have up to 8 separate VSTs, or you could use things like Contact where you would have many more MIDI outs available, and I'm sure you could set up, many different Contact systems here. But just to keep things simple for today, it allows you to just hook up any 8 of your VSTs that you want. And I'm sure there's probably ways to hook up more, but more about that later. We'll see. But another important thing to realize is you're only allowed to have one Rapid Composer open at a time. So it's not like something like Remedy, which you can have 50 remedies open, all controlling different instruments, VSTs. This is a different system, and it's made to work differently. Now, I'm using it as a plugin inside of Cubase. The standalone version has, potentially other things you can do with it. So keep that in mind. I'm going to quickly highlight what I think are some of the most interesting features I've found so far. On the right, we have all the generators. So if you're an Instant Composer user, you notice that Instant Composer has, generators that you can just, click on them and it gives you a different version, a new version. It continually generates new ideas. Well, this has a lot more generators, and the generators are a lot more powerful and can be varied and in a lot more musical ways, in my opinion. So there's a lot more power here as far as originally generating MIDI notes in different ways. It also has features a huge library of rhythms, chord progressions, and I mean huge. There's there's a lot of folders of all the stuff you would expect, and I would say even more. In a lot of different categories. So there's rhythm patterns, there's huge amount of progressions for your chords, single chord ideas, everything you could imagine, tons of stuff in there. So check that out if you get the program. But the generators is, they're interesting because they not only just give you a chunk of MIDI pattern, but they allow you to shape it in musical ways to fit your composition. And that's really the difference here. The difference here is that instead of just importing these patterns like normal, these patterns can be really changed, molded, and shaped in musical ways to fit in your composition, both with the different parts of your composition and fit with the different tracks of your composition. And by that I mean, if you drag in MIDI, you can have it blend in using ideas like voice leading and bringing the notes closer to where they should be to work with your other tracks and other phrases. So I'll get a little bit more into that. This first track I'm going to retitle, and if you double click it expands in that, but if you double click on the name, you can change it to, in this case, Chords, right? Or Chord. And this will be the notes of the chords. Now this is one of the great things about Rapid Composer. Your chord progressions are up here on the chord track. They're separate from your chord notes, and if I click this V and turn that on, your voicing for the chords are also all separate. So your chord progression, the voicing of the chords, and the notes themselves are all separately and can be edited separately. So let's drag in something from the chord generator, and I'm just you can either drag it in right onto your workspace, or you can drag it onto the cube here. And I like to drag it onto the cube because then it will register it naturally. But if you were to just drag this, you can drag it up and down and register it to where you want. So when you drag it in naturally, it kind of, it goes to its first intended register, and then I like to drag it in. Now, if you want to delete this, you can use your delete key. I have some conflicts with my Cubase shortcuts keys, so I had to make a different one. So I just use Control Delete, and that deletes it. So again, you can bring it in by dragging it, or now you can right-click on here, and you have two tabs up here, so you can go and see these features here. But you can also say Fill with Chord Generator up here, and you get the same thing. So that's just a couple ways to bring in MIDI. You can also drag MIDI in from any program. This is one of the most versatile programs for dragging out MIDI and dragging in MIDI. I've tested it with Easy Keys and Easy Bass, and from the DAW, you can drag MIDI from your generators or from your folders. Really, it allows you to drag MIDI in and out, save it, import, export. So really, you're covered as far as MIDI drag. It's one of the best programs out there. So we've seen all the different chord progressions available in the folders, but it offers a whole lot of other available helpers for creating chord progressions. So if we left-click, we see these buttons that pop up, and these are all ways you can input chords. You can do it manually with your keyboard. You can have all kinds of palettes to help you. A lot of these you've seen before, but I think these go into a lot more depth than maybe you're used to. You can import, or I should say you can customize chords, just like similar way in Scalar, where when you edit your chords, you can just draw in the different notes, and you can create your own chords, really is what I'm saying. And then you have all these other helpful ideas. Similar, like Scalar has its suggestions from the scale and from the tones. I believe this Tonans, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but this system, I believe, is similar and perhaps maybe even more in depth than that, because it has a whole system. I believe you can get ideas using tones and all the usual suspects of circle of fifths in many different shapes. But some of the interesting things I've been looking at, does it offer ways to borrow chords, to have parallels, full palettes of ideas, and it really offers a lot in here. So if you don't have Scalar, or even if you do have Scalar, you may see some new things in here. The important thing to realize with RapidComposer is that your chord track up here, fully featured chord track, is separate from your fully featured chord voicing track, which is a special track, and you can roll that up or down, and from your actual notes of your first track, which are quarter notes. These are all separate and can be edited separately, which gives you an advantage because it just allows, it's more versatile that way. So as an example, these notes are being affected by whatever chord voicing that I choose and by the chords. Normally they're just straight quarter notes, and I'll show you that in a second to prove that. So if I want to change my voicing of this, I know because it's color coded, and you can edit the color coding to show you the chord proper, like in yellow, or the possible inversions, or scale notes in and out of that scale, and other possibilities. And so I know that if I want this to voice lead in better from the C to the F, I can just, get rid of this C4, and I can go a C5 up here, and now they're more likely to have a smoother musical transition. So that's manual voice leading, or you can have the program do that for you using some of its tools, so that it will start to voice lead. And down here you can see, but you could, do it manually or automatically is what I'm saying. But so these notes down here are currently being affected, and I just made a change there, and I'm going to add in a bass note. So that would be like a C2. And you see it update down here in the blue. It's added that because my voice leading, my chord leading is doing that. But this is actually, the root notes here can still be edited back at where they first started as a plain quarter note pattern. So if I double click on this, that takes me to the phrase editor, and we see that exactly here. The blue notes are notes of the chord before they're affected by the chord shape and the voice leading. So that's why we just have straight quarter notes. And so I can edit here, and I can delete notes, and you can set it up to do that on a hotkey. And you have two different interfaces usually when you get this little tab up here. And so if I want to delete these three notes, you can set it up, again, hotkey, but I have some conflicts with Cubase. But I remove those notes, and so then I can just go and drag them out with the pencil tool. And so now I can save those changes to the composition, and you can see that the quarter notes now have been changed to long notes. And so it updates. So the original pattern is always editable in the phrase editor as how it was originally. And then in the composition, it's affected by other controllers such as the voice leading and the chord structure itself. And a huge advantage of all this is that now when I drag in anything, a bass generator or whatever, you can have it so that it's affected by not only your chord progression, but by your voice leading, if you choose. So it's a great idea. You have not only a chord track, but they've taken it one step further, in my opinion, that they now have a dedicated voice leading or chord voicing track, right? And to me, that's a great idea. And more than likely, they're all, more than likely, most DAWs should pick up that idea, because I think it just allows you a lot more creativity. And then any track that you add, and I can add a track down here, you can have this chord voicing, apply to what you want. So that's really what I'm saying. Another interesting thing that you can do is that, as I said, you can have automatic voice leading and editing, or you can have it also have joining notes. So I could have it fill it with joining notes that are also being voice led. And if this pattern had more notes, you would see little notes that connect either your different chord transitions or transitions, I believe, also from one part to another. So it allows you to really make your patterns and parts work more musically together, either by being influenced with the magnet tool from horizontally, which will give you some of those little tricks to help you, or you can press it again and it can help you vertically, I believe, from information above or below the other tracks. So really what it does is, instead of you just bringing in chunks of MIDI and you have to, voice lead and edit how they join together with extra notes, it can do a lot of that automatically. And of course, you will have to edit that to your own taste, but a lot of that can be done automatically, and that's another feature of the program. So you can decide what instruments you want to play any track, and in this case, if I click on this, it will play it through. And that's just hooked up to a sound font. If you right-click on it, you can change, what's playing what. And if I want to play something from a MIDI instrument in the plugin, I would go to Plugin Host, and it's on channel 1. And so that means that my Moto bass here needs to have an input from RapidComposer channel 1, and now my Moto bass will play. And the register is really high because it's on a chord track, but if I would have dragged in from a bass generator, which I can do right here. So I'm going to mute that for it's not irritating, and just select it and Control Delete, and that's a hotkey I had to set up. So now I can drag in the bass generator, and that should be in a register better for a bass, and that's what we get. Alright, so that's how you would hook up any VST instrument that you may have. Currently, I think you can do up to 8 of them, and Contact, of course, you could hook up many more, I think so. Now, next we're going to talk about these generators. So I quickly want to talk about these generators because I think they're really kind of neat how they work. Say you want to do some short string staccatos, which I often like to do. I can click on that generator and I can drag it into a track, and it will plop down a bunch of notes. And if I had it hooked up to a bunch of short strings, it would sound really neat, but that's not what I really want to show right here. So what I want to do is I'll mute it so you don't hear that bass sound. But if I just right click on it now, it brings up this tab. And I'll drag it out just to show more of it. Now, when you have a MIDI generator, one of these generators, you're given a special tab, and that's Generator. And that will give you a special little interface depending on what type it is. So this interface for staccato short notes might be different than from an ostinato generator or from a melody generator. So you have a lot of potential here. So what it allows is you to regenerate, to mutate in different ways, mutate just the rhythm, mutate the shape only. You're getting the idea of the options here, but really that's just the beginning. Because you can also change the original amount of polyphony. So if it's way too busy for you, just drop it down to something you like, and then apply it to your selection, and now it's applied. And you're getting that, those short strings to be not so busy, and you're beginning to shape it quickly. But again, that's just the beginning, because we can reiterate and we can, change things according to different rules. And that's things we've seen before. But really, one of the interesting aspects is the harmonize feature, which you can harmonize these notes or whole notes or a measure at a time or per beat, and you can harmonize based on different musical rules, and that will bring up a separate harmony track, and that's a whole video in itself. But to be able to harmonize any notes or groups of notes in different ways is a nice, very nice feature. But let's stay focused on just the generator here and how we can affect both now the rhythm and the variation. So in this case, because it has the ability to use variations on every generator and almost any MIDI, even MIDI that you drag in from other sources, the variation tab is open. If you drag in something from Easy Bass, you might not have the generator tab open for that, or maybe not the rhythm tab, but you'll have the variations tab, I believe, on any MIDI, at least from my experiments. So in this case, you see nothing here, but really you have to just add one. And these are all MIDI editors, or ways to shape MIDI in all kinds of creative ways. And some of these are things I have never seen before, even in Cubase. And they're really a powerful set of ways to shape this. So as an example, you can add an interval, and that will update. But you can tell it more ways you want the interval, second above. And so what it does is it gives you a feature, but then it gives you more features on that feature. And the ability to turn it off live, so you can constantly, and then also you can add and stack these as many as you like. So another thing you can do is, in this case, that would maybe be something you can humanize it really quickly. A lot of these are really neat. You can mirror it horizontally or vertically. But there are some ones in here that I'm going to do some videos on that just allowed me to create some unbelievably musical ideas for strings and to have variations on that were also just as good or better and just keep going and going. And so, yeah, they're not just, let's just do one here that would give an idea of what I'm talking about. Even the velocity, right? So the velocity range is maybe an example of what I mean by any one of these variations have all these options available. And just look how you can change the velocity if you want to do it manually, but also do it quickly. So you're able to change the velocity of all these different sectors of your notes. And it's just, I find it very intuitive and creative ways of editing velocity. And that's just one idea. And you can see the changes in the coloration of the notes when you turn off the mute. You can just see how it changes the shading because the shading indicates velocity. And yeah, so when you do add something, it's not only just adding something, but it's allowing you to edit that addition in a lot of creative ways. And one great way to show that, I just remembered, is with this. So let's take this velocity thing and let's remove that. And we've just added, and just to clarify things, let's get rid of that one and the interval one. And now I've done the apply rhythm one. This is a great example of not only can you change the rhythm, but how you apply it is done with an open box here. So I can take a rhythm or a melody generator and drag it directly into this box. It highlights green. And now see, it's taken that melody shape and applied it to all of these staccato notes. And then I can edit it in other ways too, remove out of rhythm notes and join the notes or sustain the notes. And these will change according to the different properties of how long these notes or short they are. But that gives you an idea of how you can use generators to influence other generators. I thought that was really neat. And of course, I should mention the Melody Editor tab up here. The Melody Editor is a system where you can add a lot more rules for each one of these tabs. But it starts you off with a very nice sounding little melodic idea and then allows you to edit and change that, regenerate it as many times as you want. But if you have something close to what you want, and you're too lazy to edit that, you can just mutate that idea in many different ways. So you're always getting close to where you want to go, and then of course you can just edit how you seem fit to change it the rest of the way. But even these simple ideas have some AI behind it, and how, look, you can change the musical idea or the motif and the rhythm separately. So I can make changes to the rhythm of this, and I can make changes to the actual shape of it differently in different ways. So they're separating the changes of your melody into rhythm and the shapes, the motif, the notes themselves. And again, that's really a great idea. And so I can see this as being a very powerful addition to the RapidComposer. And then of course you can always edit things in the usual piano editor style. Now I'm not even going to get into a Chord rules editor because frankly I haven't even gone there yet. And there's a lot of parts of this program I haven't touched on yet. This first video is to give you an idea of the possibilities here, from the percussion editor and piano editors, editors for strings, the huge amount of content in the folders, in the library part, in the way that the chord voicing is both manual and automatic depending how you want it, all the different chords available and chord progressions and the way to edit all that, the fact that you can drag anything from anywhere and have it work in this system. I'm already just imagining and have tested, easy keys with Superior Drummer and Easy Bass, just as some initial ideas, and it's just amazing. You just drag right in and out. I can drag, you're able to hold down the control key and drag out the chords or drag out any track or part of a track. They've made it so that you can pretty much do anything you want. So I imagine, coming up with some great ideas and then dragging in Easy Bass, maybe something from Easy Keys, and then having all the shaping tools available. Sorry for that. But having all the variations available for, the Easy Keys melody that I just dragged in, or the Easy Bass, being able to shape it. And really, I haven't really even gotten into, because I've been experimenting with these and I was just floored by what you can do. And it's not just, musical experiments that are just crazy or fun. From the tests I've been doing, it's really musical. And that's a highlight of this whole package here. It's not so much a toy as a lot of thought has gone into this to make music and not just make another MIDI pattern. And that's important to realize, and a point that you should hear about this, I think. It's not just a pattern generator. It's trying to create compositions, and if you are going to just create a pattern, it helps you to create something really useful and to be able to make tons of variations that are not only as useful but even better than the original. All right, some closing thoughts coming up. Who should buy this? Well, if you already own Studio One or Cubase and you already have Scalar and maybe InstaComposer, maybe you could bypass it, but I personally wouldn't, because I think it's leading the pack, and it has the tools I've been looking for. Drag and drop anything anywhere, and just it works for me in a really great way. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But if you do already have those tools, you could bypass it. But I would definitely, for everybody, recommend getting the demo and trying out the variations and all these generators, and check what they have in their library folders. Check out the chord voicing. Definitely check out the melody editor, and just see how this works. Drag in some MIDI from your favorite VSTs. Now, if you're a person who likes InstaComposer and you wish that it was far more developed, like way more robust, this is for you. If you like Scalar and just wish you could have something that can edit all those great phrases inside of Scalar, and you already have great ideas for your chord progressions, you may find some new ones here, and you may enjoy the voice leading and chord voicing system, and how the generators work and the variations. So that might be something that you want to look into. If you don't have a DAW, or you have a very limited DAW without a chord track and a system that gives you colors to show you, keeps you in key, in scale, tells you where to move for inversions and all of that, you're going to love this, because it has all the features like you would find in Cubase for a chord track, and some new ideas. So really, you know, even if you have all the toys and tools, for me, well, I certainly don't have all of them, but even if you have a set that you're used to and works for you, I'm finding this, I'm going to spend a lot of time in here. And but for somebody who's just wants kind of an all-in-one MIDI generating chord track with color helpers and voicing helping tools, for $119, you would have to consider that greatly. Hope this helps out a little bit. There's one way to know if it's right for you is simply get the demo, try it out. You still have a week or more before the sale ends. I'm really glad that I found this. It's one of these tools that I appreciate the thought that has gone into it. Even though initially I was skeptical on some of how the interface worked and that, but I've grown to appreciate it. And I hope this video helps you to take a look at it, and I more than likely will be creating a whole bunch of videos getting into some really neat details, like, you know, how did I create some of the best sounding string ostinatos I've ever heard, just as one example. Hope you're safe wherever you're at in the world, and we'll see you on the next video.